3,500 days into my world and I'm still chopping trees like a chump. Whenever I need wood, I come to my little podzol patch over here and grow a bunch of spruce trees usually. Well, no more. Today we are going to build a fully operational lumber mill that not only produces logs but can turn them into timber for other building supplies. What we've got to figure out now is location. This build is going to be pretty large, so I need quite a lot of room. This side of the mountain is pretty much entirely full up, but this side we only have a small selection of builds so far. And I am in the process of slowly but surely expanding out across this entire mountain range. So we're going to build it right over here where I chop down my trees. As you can see, I've plotted out 4 dirt corners, which is the rough size of the build. So the first thing we got to do is terraform this entire rectangle so it's nice and flat and ready to be built upon. It always looks a little bit strange having this big, flat, open piece of land, but once we get something on top of it, it should hopefully start looking a bit more normal. And besides, we can always shape it a little bit after if needed. Whilst I've been up here on top of the observatory, I've also noticed I didn't really fix the chicken infestation problem. It's really not that spooky, but more and more just keep cropping up. I don't really know how they're getting out, I'll be honest. But anyway, that is a problem for another day. I'm going to bed. So this build is much of a muchness at the moment. There's not a whole lot going on. We still got loads of space in front of the building and the inside is completely empty. But that's because we're not finished. I hope that's obvious. Something I'd now like to add is a way for our logs to get up to the top floor here. When I was doing my very small amount of research about sawmills for this build, I discovered that for some reason or another, they tend to have a conveyor belt bringing logs up to a second story. I should say I'm not particularly going for realism here. Whenever I build something that's meant to be in real life in Minecraft, I get a lot of comments of people telling me how I've done it completely wrong. Case in point with our dam over there. Oh boy, did I get a lot of comments of people telling me how to build a dam properly. That being said, I don't want you to not tell me how a lumber mill works, it's actually quite interesting. Just bear that in mind for, I guess, what you see next. So our conveyor belt starts outside, bringing the logs up to the second level. All makes sense so far, right? Then it gets inside and I kinda just have the conveyor belt going on round with some sawmills stuck in the middle, chopping it up into smaller pieces, and finally down a chute to the lower level. As I said, not going for realism, just using my imagination. Now currently these logs just drop down into nothing. Haven't finished downstairs yet. So this is where we're going to be turning those cut down logs into more refined pieces of wood, like stairs, slabs and trapdoors, using auto crafters that are posing as some sort of conveyor belt mechanism here. I still don't really know how the auto crafter works. I think I figured it out, or at least as much as I really need to. This one's for the trapdoors, so I think if we just configure it like that, they should autofill in here, and same with the stairs, and same with the slabs over here. I guess I should probably test this thing. Now I tried for a very long time to build a system that would auto-craft every single wood variant that you could get from planks. Let's just say it didn't work. Sadly, I am definitely not that smart, which is why I've had to settle for only slabs, stairs and trapdoors. But anyway, here's the idea. So we got some levers behind each of these hoppers and we can lock the ones that we don't want to use. So let's say we just want to make trapdoors to begin with. Well, we can lock the stairs and slabs so that when we put our planks inside of here, gotta craft them down first of all, we'll just put a stack for now. They start to feed through into this end one and eventually there we are, it's working. We see some trapdoors actually get popped out into this water stream here. And then let's say we've had enough of trapdoors. We can unlock the stairs and relock this one too. Stairs should start being created. And then same goes for the slabs as well. Unless we ran out of wood, which is a possibility. But in the end, they all end up in this little water fountain here, and I can pick them up and deposit them into their designated chests. Okay, so the system might be a little bit flawed. I've got an oak button for some reason. I think it's because I ran out of wood, probably. But honestly, that's fine. If we're being real, I'm probably not going to use this that much. It's more so just a fun little machine to go inside of our lumber mill to make it a bit more interesting. The odd time I do use it though, I am going to need a good supply of logs from somewhere. So this little tree farm design is from ENX04, and I followed a tutorial from Rune. Both of those links you can find in the description down below if you want to build it yourself. Because this thing is pretty complicated and I am not gonna pretend to know how it works. Just kidding, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Okay, so basically there's just a bunch of tiny guys in all of this redstone here. So this clock we've got going on, bunch of tiny guys on really tiny hamster wheels making this work. And up the top we've got a TNT machine, even tinier tiny guys working away to craft a bunch of tiny TNT blocks, which then go to one slightly larger tiny guy who's turning those tiny TNT blocks into a regular TNT block, which then falls onto these trees here, which are being repeatedly grown by a regular guy, in this case me, and all the drops just end up in the chest here. Okay, so in reality I have no idea, but what I do know is that this little device up here is actually a TNT duplicator, and I don't exactly feel good about it. I did look around online for a while to find something that would work for me that didn't duplicate the TNT, but I came up short. And I am really not smart enough to try and switch out the redstone for something that doesn't duplicate the TNT, so instead I'm going to make a little bit of a compromise. I've decided to dig enough sand, gather enough gunpowder to craft an entire shulker box full of TNT. And now I'm gonna throw it into here. And I know this is probably way less TNT than what I'd use in the long haul with the farm, but at the end of the day, it is my world, I can play by my rules, and this is how I'm making myself feel okay about using a TNT duplicator. So, into the lab you go, dear friend. Alright, cool. Back to work. Now that I feel ethically okay about using this farm, I guess we should give it a bit of a test, no? I've got all of this bone meal, so I guess I'm just gonna AFK here until all of this runs out, and afterwards we'll check our wood supplies. After about 10-15 minutes of AFKing, we've got all of this wood, which is pretty good going. Much more than I could gather by hand. So it's all well and good having this farm down here which produces a ton of logs, but I don't think the general vibe of this industrial giant ugly farm really fits very well with our nice looking lumber mill up on the surface. So if the tree farm isn't producing any logs for this place, and there aren't really any natural trees around, I'm sure you're wondering on where the lumber is actually coming from. Well, I'm glad you asked. Oh yeah, we got ourselves a snowmobile, which, I'll be honest, would be a lot cooler if I was better at building vehicles. Not my finest work, but I think you can kind of see what it's meant to be. I'm not particularly good at building on a really small scale with loads of tiny little details, and then vehicles are just another beast altogether, something I've never really gotten particularly good at, but I like it. I think it's cute, and it gives a good way to bring the logs over to our lumber mill that kind of makes sense with the whole world, and given the fact there aren't really trees around, at least ones that I haven't made by hand. I think the final thing we're missing with this build is just a little bit more stuff going on outside here. It does just feel a little bit empty in its current condition. Yeah, all of this is just a big help in making things look a little bit better around here. We've got tons of logs all tied up that have just been unloaded from our snowmobile carrier over here. This little doohickey is kind of how I'm imagining the logs can be moved around somehow. We of course have this big old crane loading them onto the conveyor belt, which would probably make more sense being put by the snowmobile over there, but it just kind of was in the way of the building a little bit. I think aesthetically it looks a bit nicer over here. And then just a few odd bits here or there. Loads of note blocks, by the way, like some storage around there too, and then some refined logs ready for collection to go elsewhere in the world. I think the only thing we're missing now is a nice pathway weaving around the logs and inside to the lumber mill. So that just about wraps up our build project for today. I really hope you guys have enjoyed watching and you like the finished outcome. I'm pretty happy with it, but as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.